Breathe it in, Broncos country, because your Denver Broncos are the number 1 seed in the entire AFC. They are tied for the best record in the entire NFL, and everything that Sean Payton just did against that Chargers team is way better than you think it is. Get off of social media and everyone doubting how the Broncos will do in the playoffs, because what Sean Payton just did to the Chargers was impressive and was by design, and I have the receipts to prove this is what he always does during these last games, especially when he has a fantastic team and really no chance of losing this game. We're breaking that down. We get good injury news after this game and way more. If you're new to the channel, I'm a diehard Denver Broncos fan named Ben. Helps me in the algorithm out a ton. If you believe in the Denver Broncos to win 2 home games and then play in the Super Bowl, smash that like and subscribe button. Let's get 1,000 likes on this video because the Broncos are going to the Super Bowl. We now have home field advantage, and you are going to have the worst seed in the playoffs right now come to Denver in 2 weeks, and then whoever is the second worst team in the playoffs, again, play the Broncos in the AFC Championship again at home. And we just saw an entirely different level of noise from the Broncos, which we're going to cover at the end of this video, but it is absolutely legit what these Denver Broncos have done by tying the franchise record with 14 wins. Bo Nix ties Russell Wilson for the most wins ever for a quarterback in their first 2 years. Absolutely absurd when you consider the talent around Russell Wilson versus the talent around Bo Nix, partially due to the fact that we're still paying Russell Wilson. It is ridiculous, and yet you have a bunch of haters out there on the internet right now trying to say that the Broncos are going to be a first round out, that we're not that good. They're trying to excuse all of our wins and just saying that the Broncos aren't that good. But absolutely, the Denver Broncos did not try to put anything on film in this game that would come back to bite them in the butt. And I am 1,000% clear about that because I've seen it from Sean Payton in the past. And Sean Payton is constantly seeing 4 or 5 moves ahead of people. Like he's already on to that first round of the playoffs, and he probably already knows within a certain degree of certainty who we're going to play in that game. Like I bet you, if Sean Payton would tell me who wins in these wildcard games, I would take my entire mortgage and put it on there because Sean Payton is that smart. He knows who we're going to play. There's a very good chance that we end up playing the Chargers again in 2 weeks, and Sean Payton wanted to show them absolutely nothing. And you even see a bunch of people who sometimes are like haters on the Broncos. They're great reporters, but they're very pessimistic. You see even Benjamin Albright come out and say, hey, just like the Chiefs and Raiders game, they knew that this was a win, and they wanted to do everything they could to get out of there as fast as possible. And so they played incredibly conservatively. You see Joey Richards, not a hater, not a pessimist at all, but he said this as well. He said, hey, the Broncos are going really vanilla unless they're forced not to. Well, guess what? They were not forced not to because our defense played absolutely elite, and we're 10 yards off of being the best defense in football. There's 1 first down there that knocked them out of there, but they're the second best defense in all of football, and I would put them up against the Houston Texans any day of the week. On top of that, we have the receipts to prove this is what Sean Payton does at the end of seasons, and none of those New Orleans Saints franchises and would have booed their team at the end of a game when this happened. But you take a look here. I've got the receipts on the screen for you that this is what Sean Payton does, that the year he won the Super Bowl and the other 2 years that he made it the closest to the Super Bowl, they actually got shellacked and lost the last game, and a lot of times it was because he completely rested the starters. And so now Sean Payton knows that there is above a 50% chance that the Los Angeles Chargers, who are a very well-built team, go in next week and beat the New England Patriots. They have a rookie quarterback, and that's a team that doesn't have a star pass rusher, and the biggest weakness on the Chargers is the fact that they have both of their offensive tackles down. So I think Sean is looking at this saying, hey, am I going to go out there and score 38 points on this team who I know is coming back in 2 weeks? And no, that would be the dumbest thing he could possibly do. You look at what he did. They got beat by Carolina back in 2006 when he rested his starters. Those New Orleans Saints weren't booing the franchise there. That was ridiculous. I get you paid money to watch the Broncos mollywop this team. They still did mollywop this team and covered the Vegas spread. It was an absolute blowout by NFL standards, but you look here, the year they won the Super Bowl, again, he rested his starters and lost the season closer to the Carolina Panthers, only scoring 10 points. You see he got shellacked by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Then they lost in the wild card, but then he got embarrassed the final game of the season to Carolina again in 2018, and then made it all the way to the NFC Championship game. Sean Payton had no desire to put anything out there on film that would be able to be used by Harbaugh again when they are planning for playing the Broncos again in 2 weeks. So I don't feel bad about this team whatsoever. In fact, I saw a couple things in this game that made me wildly hyped. One of the things is all the Chargers fans in your life, there's probably only one because we sell out that stadium more than they do, are going to say the fact that like, oh, we were playing a bunch of like fourth and fifth string for the Los Angeles Chargers. That's not even mathematically possible when you can only have a 53-man roster and you got 11 on offense, 11 on defense, and 11 on special teams as starters. Like you can't play third, fourth, fifth string. These were second string guys and a lot of starters. So this hit here that kind of sealed the game here at this point where Pat Surtain absolutely blows up. This was their starting running back for a lot of the season in Kamani Vidal, and he has no chance there. Like, there were a ton of starters still playing in this game for the Chargers, and the Broncos covered the Vegas spread, which already was out of control huge. Like, you shouldn't be favored that big on a divisional opponent when we just saw Chicago Bears lose to a divisional opponent who literally had nothing to play for. The Detroit Lions are out of the playoffs. It actually hurts them to win that game, and Chicago was playing for that 2 seed. Same exact thing with the Philadelphia Eagles playing the Commanders. Commanders are dog water, and they are also tanking for a draft pick, and they beat a team also playing for the 2 seed in the Eagles. So a crazy game there, and there were more starters than any Chargers fan in your life wants to give credit for. On top of that, we see we played this game ourselves without a lot of defensive starters ourselves, with Brandon Jones not playing, Dre Greenlaw not playing, John Franklin Meyer not playing. So just on the defensive side of the ball, we had 3 backups as well, and we saw Uwazurike step up big, play phenomenal in that spot. He had a fumble recovery and had multiple times that he was just getting in and getting crazy pressure. Loved the fact that Broncos just go undefeated in their throwback unis. That was pretty sick. Also, fantastic news here that Garrett Bowles, we were freaking out that Garrett Bowles was going to end up out for part of the playoffs, and he didn't come back out of the tent for a long time and didn't come out after halftime. And I was like, if we end up losing Garrett Bowles for the playoffs, I'm going to lose my ever-loving mind, because that would have been an absolute game changer. And that didn't end up being the case. Garrett Bowles did come out and finish that game, and so hoping that now that he has an entire week off to rest, that he's feeling phenomenal when we get to play, and we're going to talk about playoff scenarios in a second here. On top of that, Sean Payton's big emphasis going into this game was we need to find a way to flip this turnover battle. That the Broncos going into this game, we actually have turned the ball over more than we've forced other teams to turn it over. And even though we are leading the league in sacks, we've not been able to create turnovers. And today, 3 different times, and then one of the times the ref says it was an incomplete pass. So 2 different times, the Denver Broncos did what they have not done all season long. The first one was be able to get a defensive touchdown. That right there, when this defense scores a touchdown, it's game over. When Jaquan McMillian picked off Trey Lance, I texted everyone in my life, this thing is over. Like, just seeing something that we haven't done in a long time, and Sean Payton saying this is the emphasis. And I've come on this channel and said one of the reasons I'm bullish is that turnovers are such a fluky thing, that it is a batted ball that falls into the right place. And I don't believe in karma, but in football, I really do. That the ball does not always bounce your way. The Broncos are absolutely due for the ball bouncing their way, and if that starts happening in the playoffs, it's game over. Because if this team creates turnovers, this defense is on par with the no-fly zone. And so seeing Jaquan McMillian come up with this massive pick here off of a tip ball, again, that's something that has not happened since last season when Nick Benito scored 2 touchdowns, one against the Indianapolis Colts and one against the Cleveland Browns. So again, if our turnover luck changes, which it started to in this game, watch out. It's going to be a long playoffs for anyone else who has to come here. The other one, we've seen Nick Benito get back to the quarterback all season long, and it's been almost inexplicably unlucky how he has not been able to create turnovers, and it's not on him. And if he can start figuring out how to bat that ball out of the opposing quarterback's hands like a Von Miller, good luck playing this team at altitude 2 times, because the Broncos are going to go to the Super Bowl because they've turned this around. So I just love the fact that the big emphasis for your Denver Broncos going into this was how do we flip the turnover margin going into these games. And guess what? Mission accomplished after this. And now we have all week to kind of celebrate that and plan out how does that work here going forward. So I'm loving that. Loving just seeing a couple little aspects of here that now, as you are going to have to plan for the Broncos on a short week, because they're going to, all these other teams are playing for their lives next weekend while we are hitting up Casa Bonita and resting. They're going to be planning for like, oh, wow, Bo Nix can run the ball really well. He had more rushing yards in the first half than passing yards. And so that was the one little wrinkle that Sean Payton threw in there that doesn't give teams too much, but it certainly gives them something that they have to plan for, which means like, hey, in the playoffs, do you just see him start slinging it? Because now they're going to stop him with a spy, which means that you got another dude who's not back in coverage. So I'm really, really loving the little things that we did show. Loving the fact that all of our Denver Broncos are $58,000 richer after this game, because essentially this game gives them a playoff check because they don't have to play next week. So props to all of them. Phenomenal there. And then the other thing is, like, with this new whole thing, like, the Broncos now have 2 home games, and we saw the home crowd advantage in altitude already. Coming to altitude, you can't even walk up a flight of stairs without losing your breath, and it is the loudest environment in sports. Sean Payton said it's the loudest environment he's heard in an outdoor setting. He thought the Metrodome was maybe a little bit louder, but that's because it was a dome. This is a loud stadium, and now we have Peyton Manning level training for our crowd. And I thought this was just a brilliant move by the entire Broncos organization, that before the game started, you had Peyton Manning teaching the crowd when to be loud and when to be quiet. And my son and I went to that Indianapolis Colts game this season, and we were blown away with how still they are trained from Peyton Manning. And if you watched Phillip Rivers' game at home a couple weeks ago in Lucas Oil Stadium against the San Francisco 49ers, you could hear every single word being said when the offense was on the field, and when the defense was on the field, it was wild. And my son and I noticed that when we were there. Like, you could have a conversation with a person next to you in a whisper when the Colts offense was on the field, and when the Broncos offense was on the field, it was deafening. And so this is going to be a sneaky advantage on top of the altitude that we have. I love that. And so now here we are. The Broncos get a rest this week, and the playoff scenarios are, if the Chargers beat the Patriots, they're coming to Denver in 2 weeks. If the Patriots win, but the Bills beat the Jaguars, then the Bills could come to Denver next week. And then if the Texans beat the Ravens or the Steelers, and the Bills lose, then they would be coming. So we will have the lowest seed on here. And so I think the best matchup, obviously, for the Broncos is going to be Ravens or Steelers. I would love another crack at the Jaguars, which isn't going to happen in the second round. So really, we are preparing for the Chargers, the Bills, the Texans, and then the Ravens or the Steelers, whoever wins this game tonight. And again, Sean Payton knows the answer to this test already. He's got the answer key, and now he has all of this week to put his game plans for who he thinks is going to win. And maybe he's planning for 2 or 3 different teams. And I guarantee you, if Sean Payton could text all of us who's going to win this game, it'd be the best bet we ever make in our life, because Sean Payton hasn't been wrong about anything. He wasn't wrong in the offseason when he said that Bo Nix was going to be top 5 in the league in statistical categories in the next couple of years, because he already is this year. He wasn't wrong when he said this was one of the teams that was going to play a home playoff game this year, because it just happened. He wasn't wrong when he said this team could compete for a Super Bowl, because that is exactly what we are set up to do. Broncos country, you owe apologies to nobody. Touch grass. This is something that's only ever happened one time in franchise history, that we've hit that 14-win mark, and it feels so good, because Broncos country, we got a ton to BO-Lieve in. Let's go.